Sir, we welcome our Honorable ACS, beloved ACS here, and on behalf of all the persons here, we welcome you, sir. We'll just start the valedictory now. Please take seat, sir.
Slave of 25 people.
Sir, this was a workshop which is culminating today. It was 3 days of intense deliberations, and we had speakers from abroad and our own national experts and the persons available in Bangalore. We had addressed a lot of issues facing us and facing any big city here. We will be discussing a bit of the report, if you permit me, sir, and then after that would be yours, and Madam Lata Madam is also expected, she would be arriving. Means to have this workshop, a bit of winding up all the sessions here, and then we would ask our ACS to tell you as to what government expect from the people and from its own officers and other stakeholders in order to build the resilient city and resilient state. So our disaster management in Karnataka is organized as the apex body is SDMA, which has come into existence after the NDMA of 2005 and 6. So every state is having its own state disaster management authority. Honorable CM is the chairman of that authority, and there are 9 persons in that, and mainly they are the various honorable ministers, key ministers who would be involved in any case if any disaster of natural or man-made type is there. We have CS representing that, CS is one of the members in SDMA, the only official member there. He heads the state executive committee, which is below the SDMA and which takes care of all the executive functions which have to be undertaken by the SDMA. We have something called a fund which is called a State Disaster Response Fund, popularly known as SDRF. The projection of SDRF is mainly for natural disaster. There is a problem in the act and how it is functioning. If I continuously keep on telling you what all is the act and rule, etc., you may be getting bored. So the matter is that SDMA in its mandate asked for disaster mitigation as well as all sorts of disasters to be covered. The fund which has been kept to the state government is only for the natural disasters. That is one problem. Secondly, it is a response fund. So there is no money kept for preparedness, mitigation, etc. And they expect that various governments will be, they are having their own funds committed for these purposes. And that is how, but most of the time, every government keeps the money which is mandated under SDRF, 75% of which comes from Government of India, and the projection is made by the Finance Commission. They have projected for each 5 years how much will be the money required, money to be kept as SDRF. So all states are keeping it. 25% they keep, 75% comes from Government of India. In our case, our fund is around 188 crore this year, which is absolutely low, looking into the size of Karnataka. And every year we had been spending more than that. So if we take an average of the last 10 years, we had spent 4.5 times of the money which has been allotted to take care of the disasters. So one thing is that fundamentally we are keeping low amount in the budget to tackle disaster. And that, of course, reflects in various preparedness also and in various response systems. So looking into this, we had been now arguing with the 14th Finance Commission to rectify this anomaly, because only Goa and Manipur or 1 or 2 states are below Karnataka. Their calculation I don't know, but that formula is running for the last 10 years, which has led to this anomaly. We are addressing it. We are going to ask the Government of India to revise it to our size. Now, when this is being addressed this year, the government of Karnataka, if you have heard our honorable CM, he had been very keen to make all safeguards available, because all the time when something strikes, we are found wanting, and the press would be asking, then we will say that we have submitted a memorandum. The central team will arrive after 2-3 months, and then the money comes after 6-7 months. So 2012 Mungar money came in 2013 February, and we are expected to think as to what would have been the expenditure if what central government has assessed, same thing would have been assessed by us. By the time we would have spent on some different items, they come and they say it should have been spent like this. So there is an anomaly, and with that, keeping that in mind, first time 100 crore has been provided as additionality in the budget by the government itself in the first go. Usually we keep on asking and then the money is not coming, so we approach finance department to release. This is the first time that 100 crore has been released proactively for the response. Then the next portion is the SDMF, State Disaster Mitigation Fund. As I told you that there is a gap in the act and the way the finances are done for the disasters. So there is a there is a fund to be put by each state, and very, very few states have done it. And UP has made a state disaster management fund of 5 crores, and Orissa and Gujarat have started keeping some money, 5 to 10 crores. But actually the idea is to have SDMF for preparing for disaster and systematic investment to make the state disaster proof. Disaster proof means, again, nothing can be proof. But it is to build the resilience in the state if the hazard becomes big, it can be contained. It should not be allowed to become big. A hazard should be contained, it should not become a disaster. And we should continuously keep on systematically investing in each departments in the domain where they think that disaster may come. So agriculture department may start putting some money for making some bunds for the floods, or may start making certain sort of drought proofing to accumulate the water in fields. All those various schemes they can take up specifically in those areas which have been mapped as prone. There are national schemes, etc. Beyond that, they can do that. Now, there is a lot of sea erosion happening in our state, but we have not gone into systematic tackling of sea erosion on a systematic basis year after year. So, Planning Commission had suggested that you can put 0.5% of plan allocation of all departments for disaster mitigation and preparedness. But none of the state has done it, and union government has not been able to solve this, because none of the departments are willing to to forego their 0.5%, or they are not committing for specifically that 0.5% for disaster mitigation. But this time we have made a beginning. Honorable CM directed that 500 crore has to be kept. So 125 crore, a pooled fund of 500 has to be generated or should be accumulated over a period of time. So 125 crore has been put this year by pooling 20 departments 0.5% plan allocation, which has not been done anywhere in the country. We are doing for the first time, and that is a great step forward. But still that mitigation and disaster mitigation is usually rooted into our idea of natural disasters. We have not tackled the man-made disaster or terror in any great way. So we have got all sorts of material available. A lot of things have come from NDMA, which is our parent National Disaster Management Authority at the apex level, at the Government of India level. They keep on organizing workshop and they keep on sending a lot of material, which is all lying with us. But if you ask me, we were feeling that we are not sitting together with the police department and with the health department, fire force, urban development department, and that is how there had been this idea to have a workshop and ask all of you to come together and give your valuable inputs. So though we have all this SDMA, NDMA, State Executive Committee, money, etc. But again, as each one of you must have seen, all speakers had emphasized that we have all this in our kitty, but still at the implementation stage we fail because we do not coordinate our actions. We have no idea of the command and control, and that is why the ICS came into, those sessions were very effective sessions because you can make out what is happening with us when we go to the field, and sometimes a phone call comes to the district surgeon to that has been a disaster and he has to open this ward and medicine would not be available and it is being sent from somewhere else. We do not know for what type of disaster we have to locate which medicine where and what quantities. All that has not been thought through by us in a coordinated manner. So that is how this workshop attempts to bring all of you together, and this is not a one-off journey where after 3 days we will like to forget about it and go in our own directions. The deliberations of this workshop would be compiled and will be submitted to the government, and what can be done immediately would surely be done immediately, but other items may take its own time, and let us not rush the things at a very high speed because to make up the time, because then in that case we may lose the organic linkages with the various departments and how the manpower has to be trained for that purpose. So sir, with this, sir, we had around 3 days, sir, and each day was having around 4 sessions. So we had around 12 to 13 sessions in all, and our Honorable CM inaugurated, and he said that our size of Bangalore is such that it is high time that we start planning for the resilience of city and all other similar cities, though they may not be of this much big size, but the similar cities which are quite large and in our backyard, they should also be made, there should be some sort of planning for various types of threats other than natural disasters also. And the methodology which is discussed for mass casualty will anyway be valid for disasters, be it natural or unnatural. And our Revenue Minister was emphasizing that he would be demanding that Government of India should rectify this anomaly of keeping very low amount of SDRF, and also NDRF's battalion, which is demanded for Karnataka and Kerala to be located in Karnataka for Kerala also, and we are willing to give the land. And it is very heartening to note, sir, that we gave some 2 acres of land to NDRF for putting one company for the purpose of Bangalore, and they had immediately taken up the land and taken possession and had put up a small unit there. Of course, it would take some time to build proper structures, but they are up and going, at least with the 10% itself. It has been, some material has been kept, and we would be using them for training our SDRF. And very momentous decision Government of Karnataka has taken to raise 4 companies of SDRF, State Disaster Response Force. If you see, sir, Maharashtra has got, they also taken to raise 4. They are almost 1.5 to 1.7 times our size. But for us to start with 4, we would be requesting the police department that they start deputing the persons at the earliest and then recruit. Once the SDRF comes, sir, we have some money for equipments in our fund, around 9 to 10 crores. We will start funding the SDRF in a more systematic manner, and they would be available to us, to the citizens of Bangalore, and also all over the state to tackle natural and other disasters, sir. Then we had, sir, police department, the topmost brass of police department, they came and told as to what they are doing for planning purpose. They spoke about law and order and a distinction between law and order and the terror, and how the terror is being, the activities are linked, and how they can track the activities which may lead to a terror act. So all that was discussed, sir. So over then this, so first session was by our V. Balachandran sir, who spoke from the Mumbai attack perspective, and very succinct points he brought out. And yesterday when we were discussing, he said if 3 things are done immediately, it will bring a lot of resilience itself. He said that police control room, the ambulance, whatsoever system you have to rush the ambulance, and the municipality, These three things, if you combine immediately, then that itself will be a great service to the people of Bangalore. So that I think should also be our strategy to first have that. Then also, as you have heard, our incident command system, etc. If you see the police command, police control room is one. The BBMP control room is another. I have a state emergency operation center in MS building, and I don't know, BESCOM has a control center as I was working there as MD. So we had not been able to integrate even the BBMP, BESCOM, BWSSB, for which we are talking for the last 2.5 years. Then that integration with the this police control room and ambulance, that should have been done by this time, but we will have to take it very seriously and see that some sort of common control rooms and call centers are generated, and we can address to people in a more systematic manner. That is how we are also not in a position to handle a lot of pressure from media and people, because we have not got the comprehensive information running from, I mean, coming from 2-3 ends, and in a position to analyze it and give a proper answer. So I think it is high time that we start doing it, and we start thinking about the joint operation centers and joint command centers. Then, sir, of course, the police dealt with various aspects of terror and how they are planning. The next session was on role of, before the role of media, sir, we had a session on our experience in Uttarakhand and what was missing and what was heartening in Uttarakhand, and how the common people also helped, and how the military as well as the NDRF and local administration gelled together. Though we have criticized Uttarakhand state for a lot of things, but ultimately it is the state government which was the gelling, I mean it was the substance which gelled all the various agencies, and they could work in some systematic manner. The role of media came, but I think as expected, media was of course critical of our actions, and there are a lot of expectancy from us, and we should deliver. So it is in right spirit that press has attacked the inadequacies of the government and had asked us to be more proactive. The next day, sir, was chaired by Anand Arni sir, who is here with all the 3 days with us. Genesis of Urban Terror and its Manifestation in the Future by Sang Sagnik. And a lot of things were discussed as to how the terror has grown, and how the various part of the world had been infested, and what goes into the mind which leads to terror activity by a terrorist. Then, sir, we also had a session in which we had called some experts from CME Pune. He spoke about our Lieutenant Colonel Shailendra, he spoke about the bioterrorism, and Professor Gopalan, S. Gopal, Professor of Strategic Study, NIAS, spoke about nuclear. So we have, sir, this C-STEP, which has been doing a lot of research here. It is located very close to us on 1 Infantry Road, and they had been doing a lot of simulation as to how, if the nuclear attack happens, the spread would be there and fallout would be there, and what would be the temperatures and pressures at various places, and what would be critical to reach the people who are facing such type of danger. Then I think today I missed the whole day. Of course, internal command system, integrated command system, it is wrongly written. ICS by our friend from America. He had been, actually we should be very much thankful to him for devoting 3 sessions and dealing with in a most systematic manner from the basics to the ICS to the exercise. It had been a great experience and great learning for me personally, and I hope all of you who are present here would have also learned, and tomorrow we would understand that when we go in a team, maybe I am the secretary, but I may only be a section head, and I may not be the incident command, we may be with some doctor, and we should know that how the ego should not come in between and why we are doing this. So common terminology and the clear command system and all the responsibilities of the ICS, we will be having a lot of deliberations after this to see that it is put to practice. Then today's session we had tactical medicine. And so tactical medicine is a new concept of emergency medicine which is applicable in both military and civilian areas. And tactical medicine, as I understand, is we are having a lot of threats, and for the response and for prevention, we should have had enough stock of those very critical key medicines, and we should be in a position to access it during the emergencies. I have, of course, not been able to attend that session, but I have been told by Toby that it was one of the most fantastic session in which where to keep and how it has to be mobilized, how the stocks are to be kept, all had been discussed properly. I hope our doctor friends here, whom I have been requesting for the last 2 days to be in the workshop, would not have been feeling let down by my coercion or too much of persuasion. So, sir, with this we are ending our sessions today, sir. First day the deputy commissioners attended, sir. Second day the ADCs of those districts are here to take notes and keep the things continuous, and so that the districts can plan better in future. With this, sir, I close my remarks here and would request you to address, sir.
My friends and colleagues on the dais, my beloved audience, see, disaster is all over. See, unless there is a disaster, the press will not survive. One thing, the disaster is necessary for the press. If the life had gone on without disasters, it would be such a boring life and such a sedate life, isn't it? So, what is a disaster? Disaster is, disaster is something to do with the speed of the event. If something is very slow, that can also be equally damaging, but it's not a disaster. For example, Bangalore, 70% water is undrinkable, and we are cutting down our forests at a very fast pace. We see a house today, Bangalore today, gone, an apartment coming in its place, people going without jobs. They're all very gradual changes. They also have equally detrimental effects, but they can't be qualified as disasters. Disaster has something to do with the rapidity of the event, something which happens rapidly. So, for example, every day lots of people will be dying of malnutrition in this country, but suppose 5 people get killed in an accident, that's a disaster. So, because it's a speed of the event, happens all of a sudden, that is why it's called a disaster. These disasters can happen on a scale which are very massive. We'll not go into all this. Fukushima is known to you, Chernobyl is known to you, a tsunami is a disaster. Now, the question is, how do we plan a response to it? In fact, your 3 days a workshop occupied the time. Different disciplines of people came. Well, one thing was very clear in this calling of people, that basically it was thought that disaster could be planned and responded to by people who are in positions of power or who have responsibility. This is not entirely correct. In fact, it's been shown all over the world, ultimate response of disasters is from the people who face it, who are there at the spot. So that is something which you should remember. So the whole exercise of disaster management will be to sensitize the people to manage their own role. And then all countries which have managed disasters in a very admirable manner are countries which have got quality in them. You cannot have a resilient city or resilient country or resilient society without a ring of quality. That everything, for example, very simple, if your roads are top class, if your vehicles are top class, if your buildings are top class, if your effluent systems are top class, if you have a very efficient communication system, you will be definitely more resilient to disaster. So the disaster management is not a management exercise in isolation. It is a process by which we go towards quality in all walks of life. That is something which must be understood. That we are not really aiming for one single event and waiting for it to happen. If we generally do things well, very simple, if we prepare for the exams by regular study, the final exam will not be a disaster. If we choose our friends and if we choose our partners carefully, then our own personal life will not be disaster. Just giving examples. Basically, it's a way of life. But then some amount of time we should spend thinking of possibilities and eventualities which may happen in one's life. We have umpteen examples in real life, and umpteen more examples are presented in a very colorful manner by the films that we see. In fact, today, unless you make a film on a disaster, it will not sell. The disasters have taken place with imaginary characters. Disasters have taken place with people foreseeing so many things. These are the things which really the people have gone overboard with imagination to really plan what would happen in case of disasters. But when real disasters strike, we found so many things wanting. In fact, we found in Uttaranchal, when we had the disasters with flood, the very basic things of knowing whom to contact was not there. In fact, I'm very sorry to say, the district magistrate of a particular area, when we saw the disaster, he got himself admitted to the hospital. That was the response to the disaster at point of time. So, abdication of responsibility is the most common phenomenon in times of disaster. How to keep in power and how to keep functioning in disaster with lesser implements, more unconventional methods of communication, how to evoke the compassion in society. Because management of disaster is function of the compassion of society, ultimately. If somebody is dying, if there is no medical help at hand, can somebody give a helping hand to the person to die properly at least? That's the thing. Because so many people have died unsung in Uttaranchal. About 7,000 people have died. Very few people have got attention. Then, when army was also involved, it's a disciplined force which took nearly 15 days to get this whole thing under control. So, this is a very massive operation we had seen. There are lots of brickbats, lots of bouquets have also gone in that operation. But lessons will not be learned. Again, the same disaster will occur. If you build a hotel which is 5 feet from the river, obviously when the river rises 20 feet, you will be under 20 feet of water. In fact, I remember one deputy commissioner, very senior officer, colleague of mine, who got awakened in the night. Around about 12 o'clock, he got a phone call from people saying, lots of people are coming to your house. So what happened? They said, sir, our houses are under water. There are huge floods in Bangalore. All of us are under 20 feet of water. Then he said very simple, if you build your house in a tank bed, you will have water only. What else can you have? So it's a kind of planning process. We have ignored our water bodies, we have ignored our bylaws, we have ignored our resolutions, we have ignored our construction activities. If you build houses in tank bed, we have water only. Ultimately, a tank bed will regain itself. If too much water comes, if you can stop it for some time, but after some time, the gravity takes over. So that's a kind of phenomenon which you see in disaster management. In fact, the entire exercise that Tushar has planned for these 4 or 5 days, or 3 days, has been basically to sensitize people to the responsibilities. And of course, I am very sorry that money will really not matter. In a disaster kind of scenario, you will find the least important thing is the money. Because there are not many people to take your money and not many people to give money at that point of time. You will find most of the services are rendered by human compassion at that point of time. Money really doesn't change hands. And those who deal with money at that point of time are the real pirates. They are the people who dominate at that point of time. So, that is the essence of disaster. But then, can you really plan for disaster? Or can plan for preventing disaster? My answer is no. You can only plan a reasonable response for disaster. It is because all disasters are different. They are unpredictable as the virus which strikes you. Each element will be different. So it will be your own training and creativity and ability to meet the circumstance at that point of time head on is what is going to determine the response to disaster. And you will find there will be unsung heroes. There will be people who have not been honored in public life. The people who have not done anything good, supposedly not done anything good in public life, all of a sudden they'll become heroes because they have that thing in them. At that point of time, if they respond, they have the thing in them. See, I am reminded of a planning exercise because planning for disaster is sometimes a disaster of planning. It's like this, see, during the early 19th century in London, you had lots of these coaches, horse-drawn traffic was there. There were no cars, there were no aircraft, obviously. So horse-drawn traffic was the mode of communication in many of the major metros. So somebody calculated, if the kind of increase in horse-drawn traffic is there for another 75 years, London will be under 16 feet of horse-dung by the time it is 1945. So that those kinds of predictions also made. But then you'll find that most of the predictions go awry because technology takes a different path. There are different methods of inflicting torture. There are different methods of the terrorist getting access to you. There are different methods by which somebody can jeopardize your life. A simple biological tool, a simple poison put in a well can react after a period of few months. It need not even react at that point of time. A chemical injected in the water supply system of a large town can cause real disaster, and I don't know how to really respond to it. Which point would you save? Which point would you have security? If you have too much of security, you jeopardize the daily functioning of that office. Or you jeopardize the daily functioning of that organization. If you have too little, you open yourself to terrorism. Then where do you draw the line? It is only by virtue of the fact that you have enlightened citizens who see and have their eyes and ears open that we can prevent or even do some things which are real responses. So basically I have tried to somewhat dilute the premise that only people in power can respond to this. It is very fortunate that you don't have so much responsibility placed on you. You have lots of others whom you can consider your brethren when you share a moment of disaster. Disasters build characters of people. The real men come out. The disasters also show how resilient a society has been for thousands of years. We have seen, in fact, I would prefer talking of resilience of societies rather than resilience of cities. Because the character is built by the ability of people to face hardship and such kind of events. The state government of Karnataka has done an excellent job. We have preparedness for disaster. This time the budget announced by the Chief Minister has also made adequate financial commitments to meet disaster. Only thing we pray to God, it doesn't happen in the form that it will take so much money. We would rather spend the money on improving a lot of people rather than coming to the help in times of disaster. We should plan properly. We should see that we share information as much as possible rather than remaining mute citizens to injustice, mute citizens to what is occurring. Rather than philosophize ourselves, we should build communities which are resilient. We share our thoughts with other people so that they come of help in times of need. I would place my appreciation for Tushar's organization and also Synergy, who has done this excellent exercise. I wish I could have attended earlier sessions, but then I have a slave of 25, 30 other people who can't do much. It was really a pleasure listening to Tushar's summary of what has been discussed. Let it go a very long way and make all of you more resilient to disaster. Thank you very much.
Just a few words to thank everybody here. First, I would like to thank my esteemed colleagues who were so good and who so supportive in organizing this in less than 3 weeks. To the members of our advisory board, Anand Arni, Pratap Heblika, Mr. Gopal. We had a number to the speakers who were kind enough to travel. Dow Maisel, Eric Odo, and Seng Saniak. To all of you who were patient enough in the last 3 days to listen, I would like to thank each one of you. And last but always keep the best to the government of Karnataka for their wonderful support. I must mention Tushar and the entire team for their amazing support they gave us, without which we could never have done whatever we asked. They were kind enough to chip in, give us the support, and it has been an immense pleasure because we have never worked with a government like this before, and working with this team has been a pleasure. So I just wanted to take time to thank you very much, and I hope we will be able to continue the interactions in future. Bye.
Thank you very much, all of you who are here. On behalf of Government of Karnataka, again, I would also like to thank Synergia Foundation, who is our knowledge partner, and all of you who are here, including my friends from media. Thank you.